Hello and welcome to our very first training session. And in this session, we have two very special guests. We have David M. Miles and Daniel Gindis from Wisemee. And just to humbly introduce Wisemee, it's one of the largest organizations leading traineeship in MUN with over 20 years of experience. So David and Daniel, it's a pleasure having you both. I will leave the floor for you both now to start the training session, and welcome.
Thank you very much for the beautiful introduction and for the great work you guys are doing here with World MUN Day. This is very exciting. When we started MUN, we didn't know there would be a world, that there would be a day focused activity, which really changes so many people's lives by giving them sort of a gym for their personality and the gym for, your speaking, your confidence, your negotiation, all these different things, which, many people in the world outside of MUN don't know exists. Like, you go to anyone outside the MUN sphere, they don't know what Model United Nations is. And we're really proud of how far it has come in these, recent years with things like World MUN Day to bring it to more people, but also give the community and those of us who do Model UN a place to meet each other beyond our national circuits and to, be able to connect and talk about things we find important, share skill tips, conference recommendations, life philosophies. There's a lot of wealth to share through this community who, don't meet each other enough.
All right. Wait, is our shared screen already? I can't see it. Can't tell what's here. But thank you very much for that. Let me set it up. Here we go.
So
much better. Okay. And I think we already have a few people online with us. That's great. We've got the Q&A. If any questions come up during the course of our session, keep them coming. Daniel, thank you. And let's get the show on the road. Like Daniel said, and like what said before, we're all about creating the number one online resource for all things MUN. We're not going to dive into that a lot more, but more just about the public speaking element and the big aspect of artificial intelligence, which we're also seeing in our day-to-day a lot more. And like we said, when we started at Wisemee, it was about providing the tools that we need to in MUN as it evolves over time.
I think it's very,
it looks like.
Yeah, I want to add to what David said, that for Model UN, there's been a lot of evolution in our time, doing MUN. I think that don't think anyone on this call is, I don't know who's been here pre the use of, Google School and Google, infrastructure. But to think that once upon a time an MUN crisis or resolutions were run solely on paper, and then when they moved to computer, they're moved to documents but couldn't necessarily be shared. And then they're being shared on Google Docs. And then, right now, to not have an internet connection to work on a shared document is something that many of us can't imagine for our conferences. And right now, with the advent and accessibility of AI, of ChatGPT, it brings new challenges and opportunities to the MUN world. But how do you MUN when people can, auto-generate responses so quickly? I mean, I will say from what I've seen, most of them are not very good or on point at this point, unless you're really good at, I would say prompt engineering, which that in itself is a skill. So we want to go through effective use of AI tools for MUN. And before we jump into it, I will say that it's important to know that even if your AI could be prompted to write you the perfect opening speech, you still need to deliver it. You still need to follow up on it. It can't negotiate for you in the committee with 60 other people or 200 other people. So like the skills of MUN skills you need to sell it, to win friends, influence people, and move yourself forward in life are still as relevant as they always have been. That being said, there are definitely new challenges and opportunities, and we're going to go into it right now. Back to you, David.
One of the big things is actually, in a way, it's becoming more relevant because everyone's having access to all information. But let's hop into it. And this training is about public speaking, so fundamentals of public speaking and where things are and what's going on. So this is based off a bunch of our online resource. Whoa, I skipped ahead over here. Our resources that we talk about on effective public speaking. And it's funny, I'm talking about effective public speaking, but I'm looking at the wrong place. Okay, and when I'm looking at the wrong place, I'm already distracted, which goes back to really effectively using the floor. And I already lost the biggest point on the very top, is effectively using the floor. It doesn't matter what speech fundamentals I actually have, or the ideas that we're trying to communicate, or the audience of who we're actually communicating it to. If I don't have the control of the floor, just like me, we're doing this online. I'm looking at one screen, off to the next. It really doesn't matter what I have over here. When what's kind of funny is I'm doing it on purpose here. This is a different platform that I don't use every single day, and I'm already looking to the right and to the left, which kind of goes back to the fundamental element that you're going to hear again and again during the next half hour is even if you have either the best presentation, the best idea, the best fundamentals, if you can't deliver it, it's all going to waste.
And now I want to add to this. When you look at the slide here, there's effective use of the floor, which David beautifully conceded he wasn't completely in control of his surroundings. And then the audience messaging, which depends on that, and idea communication. If you can't message the audience, you can't communicate the ideas. This is one of the reasons I would say taking it to practical MUN. I recommend don't use colored pictures in your introduction. Don't do wild movements. There was an MUNer one time who took his jacket off during the opening speech to emphasize a point. No one remembered what he said, just that he took his jacket off. You want everything to be there to support your messaging, not to draw attention from it. And if you think about all the online workshops you see, when they start smoothly, I'd say that's more the miracle than there being obstacles. But right now, if we're thinking of what stories have we seen, Daniel and David said some stuff about MUN and MUN being good, and we love MUN also. But then David got stuck looking at the wrong screen and talked about that. So that's our first story. So if we're remembering one thing, it's how he talked more about not effectively using the floor than other parts. So anyway, let's move on.
I'm going to keep the time over here because just like MUN, we've got our time and we're going to be cut off at the end. So it goes back to the clear. Why don't you hop into this one, Daniel, a little bit more?
Sure. So for us, the CIA format of clash information action is really the heart of every MUN speech. And that's why you have to have a clear call to action. It's in the upper left. This is the most important thing. And if you look at where your eyes are drawn to on the slide, it's very important because when we're used to reading from left to right, and this is, by the way, when you want the most important thing should be first. Your clash, what you want to do should be the first sentence of your speech. I mean, I personally recommend do not go into a quote. Do not bring an emotional appeal. Like that comes later. Start with what you want to do. What is your call to action? We should move to 140,000 tons of food to the people who are suffering the famine currently in, Kenya. They're in the famine that was reached. The 240,000 tons enough for 1 million people for 1 year. And our step is to first reallocate the UN funds, get it delivered. Right now, we are in April, so deliver a third through May, June, and July, and then assess at the end of that time period. Look how much information I gave you guys in 30 seconds. Then I can bring an emotional appeal. We should feel for the people there. Then we can bring a quote or cite some previous resolution. But at the beginning, start with what's most important. If I did it in the reverse and I said, hey, we need to help those in need. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the first 6 charter talks about the importance of food. And you're like, okay, but there's a famine in Kenya. What are you going to do about it? Don't make people wait. From the second you start your speech, people are going to be falling, paying less and less attention. You got to hit them hard. Imagine your speech is a online short. You don't get them in the first 2 seconds, you lost them. And it's continuing it through. So start your speech with what you want to do, and then the other things come later. If you look at the slide, which David made very beautifully, our eyes go to call to action. Had we put emotional appeal first, you would have seen that in the upper left. We're used to reading from left to right. Put things where it's most visibly going to be seen to convey the right message. Next slide. Okay, so this is the clash information action, the CIA method for impactful communication. It's great for MUN, but it's also great for life in general. One of my MUN students used this format writing a speech for his mom, who was a VP of a pharmaceuticals company, and it was the best speech in the whole 2-day conference. Clash, what you want to do. Information is facts. Always use a number. Numbers make you sound smart. Not using numbers makes sound like you're bringing an opinion. And then call to action, which is the most important, how you're going to do what you describe. This is the fundamental. If you're not sure what to say in MUN, go back to your clash. You're not sure what to offer as a mod, go back to your clash. The clash of what you want to do is the heart of everything. Policy-oriented, action-oriented thinking.
The biggest thing is every single one of these elements is just part of the recipe of the perfect speech in MUN, no matter where it is or at what stage you're at. And it kind of just leads us right back into choosing a topic and a point that really ignites the debate, because and like I said earlier, it's not necessarily just about the message itself. It's not necessarily about having the best crafted speech with the best technical argument, because you need to know how you're going to be crafting that debate within the session that you're in, based off other people's opinions. If you have no debate, you've got no foundation to work off. If you all agree on everything, then you're living in utopia, and we're never there. And if you all disagree too extreme, then that's not the place you want to go. You want to create debate and find a place of unified, agreement of sorts.
100%. What David's saying here may seem counterintuitive. Hey, we want to reach agreement. No, you want to find disagreement. Then people will talk about your idea. You find or create the disagreement, rise above the disagreement, and then bring consensus. Start consensus. No one's going to listen to your idea. No one is going to, stick to what it is. Taking, for example, if I say, hey, we should teach you about the importance of helping people who are hungry, we already know that. No one's going to put it as the first clause of a resolution. But if I say right now, we understand that the famine in, sub-Saharan Africa hit 4 countries, and we're saying we want to focus on the ones who are furthest away from a port to receive sea support, that's going to be when we're like, wait, you're abandoning countries? Yes, but to give more help to those in more need. Now let's debate, especially if people have allies with these other countries.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more? Because when we're talking about the approaches or the different ways of creating a debate, we've got different clashes. We talked about the disconnect of what we don't agree on. Why don't you elaborate? Let's elaborate a little bit more on what would be considered either a micro, or a macro clash in the debate.
Certainly. Okay, so first of all, when there's a clash is what we want to do. And the clash that we offer, the reason to use the term is clash is because it needs to disagree with someone. If everybody agrees, there's no debate. If there's no debate, then we're not really going to move things forward. Macro clash is a debate which involves the entire committee. For example, in 2025, should we still invest in COVID research? The committee decide yes or no. That's the larger question of the debate. Now, let's say most of the committee decide no. Our body is immune. Whoever was going to be injured or, unfortunately, died, that's already happened. We should focus on new types of virus. 90% of the committee decides that that's the direction they're going on the macro clash. This then brings us to the micro clash. Within this, okay, what disease are we going to work on instead? Is it going to be, the Ebola virus, measles, heart disease, teeth decay. Like there are many options. And then we fight about these other things. We see which one of these is going to take center. And I've seen chairing committees of 100 people where 90, let's say 90 of them agreed on one macro clash, and then that divided itself into another one where 60% agreed, but they couldn't keep together, and that splintered into two groups of like 30, and then they had to start collaborating with each other.
I love that you're bringing that up of giving up these examples of different types of clashes that go on, and you brought up these interesting statistics, and you do this naturally, Daniel, and I love it about you. You already started implementing the statistics and throwing in based off your own experiences, which makes it a lot more believable and memorable as well, which kind of leads me into another thing which I see on a regular basis, which is what's going on with this off clash. Why do we see so many different conferences, so many different places where the whole committee seems to go into a dead end? It's like, oh yeah, we're talking about things, and then they're like, okay, we finished, we had enough, we spoke about everything. Like, why? Of course, I'm leading into our off-clash statements, which we see so many times. But why don't you tell me? I'd love to hear some more experiences here.
I mean, it's when someone says a truism, like no one should be hungry, everyone should keep education. Not getting sick is a vital mental human right. No one's going to say, yeah, let's encourage sickness. Let's develop, life-challenging viruses because the world is over, too many people live on the planet. No one's going to say that. So when you get up and you speak of this truism, your whole speech, and this is actually, I'd say more specifically, do not repeat the problem in the study guide at all. If your country cares about solving the problem in the study guide, it's a waste of time because everyone read the study guide. Now, I'll say there's some MUNers, I'm sure not us and, people on this call, but sometimes people go into MUN and the study guide's the main thing they read that month, and they're like, want to share that. Like, wow, I read this thing, but everyone should have read it. Don't repeat the problem. Go straight to your solution. A good solution is going to make what the problem is clear. If I say right now, I'm ordering 15 mushroom pizzas for everybody on this Zoom call, you can assume that, people here are hungry or we're hungry with this excellent, MUN summit, happening throughout the day. But if I say, let's feed the people, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Now, if I say I'm getting you a mushroom pizza, you can decide, I like it, I don't like it. We can now debate. That is a clash because I'm sure someone watching this lecture is either lactose or hates pizza or doesn't like mushrooms. But if I say I'm going to feed you, I could feed you knowledge. You might throw a book at me because you thought I'd be giving you pizza, but that also works. So being clear and specific, start with your solution. A good solution will explain the problem. But a repetition of the problem, it feels good to the gut to repeat the problem in the study guide. Everyone knows that, and that's a waste of your time. That's why when you do emotional appeal, that's time wasting if it's not coming after a clear clash and a clear solution.
I hear one of I'm reading over the comments, a few comments that we got over here, and someone from Greece says, "Well, excellent strategy." And the first thing that came to mind was, and whomever they are, if I could pronounce your name, I would call you out by name, Daniel. If you can pronounce the name, then do share it. But the first thing that what?
I tried.
Okay, cool. The first thing that comes to mind, they say, excellent strategy. First thing that comes to mind is most people don't think about the strategy. And that's where the challenge is. Just the aspect of thinking about that strategy, of how you approach, is it going to really, really give you a leg up. Thinking about those strategies, approaching it in a different way, and coming out with a fundamental strategy. If it's the CIA, understanding what that clash is, what's going on, is going to make your life so much easier. And that's before we're not even talking about AI, shmai, because that's only for the more advanced. Once you have the fundamentals, if you don't have the fundamentals, and I challenge each and every one of you on this call, go to any AI and ask, oh yeah, write me a perfect MUN speech. I guarantee you're going to have, honorable chair, fellow delegates, we gathered here to discuss this debate, because that's what it has out there. Most of the information is exactly that. AI does not know any different than what's already fed to it. Take that moment, go over that strategy and build it out. The more you build it out, the better before you get to anything close.
David, can you jump to slide 15, please?
Sure.
Okay, so this is so I want to echo what David said here with
15.
Yes.
This one.
Okay, so we talk about clash information action, the fundamentals of a speech. If you are going to use a chat program, and David and I have researched this with ourselves, with our own students and programs that we work with. If you say, write me an MUN opening speech and just, feed in the study guide, it's going to repeat the problem and probably bring the solution at the end. And this is something which is really bad to do in MUN. This Hollywood reflex that my killer punchline at the end, everybody is waiting for. No one is waiting for your final sentence. Your solution should come at the beginning. That's why clash, what you want to do. Information, why, with a number, action, how you're going to do it in 3 steps. This is the structure, and we have an article on our website, MUN opening speeches and MUN speeches in general. Refer to this a lot. You need to know what it is that you want to do, but everyone else does too, because they're not going to vote for you on your definition of the problem. Even you completely change the problem. Let's say we want to invest in a COVID vaccine, and I say, no, heart disease is a much bigger thing. Okay, so you need to reorient. But then your clash would be heart disease in 2025 is from excess cholesterol is the biggest killer in the world, and we need to invest in heart disease, not heart disease is a problem, and not COVID is still a relevant problem, or not enough is going to vaccines. Not enough going to vaccines is a problem, but how are you going to solve it?
Dan, we got our first question coming in over here before we continue on with our AI argument that
Sure.
on how we actually approach it. And it goes back to the beginning of, what would be an example of a bad emotional appeal?
So I would say that a bad emotional appeal, there are 3 types. The first one is where you're just appealing to the wrong right of 2 emotional rights. For example, people are starving, and to be able to provide food, you need to keep them in one area to distribute aid. So you're blocking their right of movement instead of their, right to food and life. And you say, hey, freedom of movement is very important. We let people go wherever they want, even though it might result in people starving. So don't fight for a right that clearly loses to another one. An emotional appeal that's very, very general versus specific is the second one. When I say, think of the children, and, we don't want child labor, but someone else says, yeah, but in this specific area, it's the only job that there is. So by fighting against child labor, these kids are going to get nothing instead of very little. So while you want to say, help all children, it's not case specific. So you definitely want to be case specific. And a third emotional appeal is just ones like, hey, everyone, as people in the world, we must come together to help each other. We know that already. So appealing to the audience to work together, these are MUNers. This is an educated group who, even if we're not only, here to, bring glory to our school, they're people know the game. You won't persuade someone emotionally with something they already know. I'd say focus on specifics and try to show why your rights and ideas are good in this specific case. If it's the only job in the area, you should spend your entire speech showing why child labor is not okay, when it means working not at all in this specific sector.
Talking about child labor not being okay kind of leads me right back to slide number 14, which we just skipped on, which is the pros and cons of using any AI tools. And one of them, is, not having any emotions. You can train any AI to say pretty much anything. And, you want to make sure that you've got the right emotional appeal, the right type of approach, because we already have the basics, and hopefully we already spoke about understanding the importance of having a foundation. I'd love to spend the next, a few minutes that we have together, discussing those other elements that we want you to, think about when approaching AI in writing your speech in MUN. And some of those things, has to do with creativity, understanding, where that data is coming from and what's actually going on. So I'm just in efforts of time going to continue forward. Did you, for some odd reason, tell me we only have 30 minutes?
Yeah, it's
12:30
to 1.
Okay, let's see here. We got some messages.
So I say go to 23. We'll wrap up. We'll stay for a question or two if people have.
Yeah.
Okay. All this, by the way, is all the things we're talking about are available in long form on our website. We talk about different, how to research with MUN, different websites, AI tools, it's all there. So there's nothing we're saying here that you can't find on wisemee.com. Okay, so authenticity versus AI efficiency. Finding this balance is one of the big challenges today, because even if we can't necessarily write the exact same way that AI can, we can definitely edit. And chat bots are now getting us to need to edit the material. I don't recommend anything you see just saying it. And this is where your own authenticity and being a person is important. AI can help with data handling. It can help you with your productivity, but it's not going to replace the human connection. And again, AI will not help you in an unmod. That is you. You still need to go people, talk to people, make friends.
I want to hold on to that one, on an unmod, because we're getting there that it can. Start collecting information, understand these subtle elements, and actually record and transcribe and actually start embedding the information that's being said in an unmod in order to feed back information to the delegates on what to say and who to connect to, which goes back to understanding the tools that are out there. We might not be there today, but in the near future, for sure in the next 6 months to a year, that is what we are going to expect and see in every single MUN, just like we went from MUNs. I think people used to keep times on whiteboards, right, Daniel? Back in the day,
yeah.
And clocks, and now they actually have proper, MUN command and WX and all of these other places that are creating, places to facilitate all of the tools for delegates and moderators. We're seeing the same thing going to be coming out, just 10x on top of that. Don't believe anything that's coming out.
No, we don't have a lot of time. We got to get through, at least finish on time. I do want to answer another question about why does Wisemee approach not start with hook to grab your attention. So I'm very happy to go on record, as I have before, in saying a hook is going to cost you many, many seconds where people are waiting for what you want to do. If your clash is provocative enough, for example, let's stop investing in heart research and move all of that money to investing in measles research. Your clash is all of our funds should work on measles research. That's your clash. That can come first. But if it's hook versus clash, some kind of attention grabbing opening versus what you want to do, you're looking at 20 seconds of your speech usually given to a hook, which comes in. People are waiting. They're gone. They're not going to do you wait 20 seconds for anything? To me, start with your clash. Make it easy for your audience to know what it is that you want. So if someone is writing notes on what you're saying and they stop writing after the first 10 seconds, they'll still know what you want and will know if they want to work with you in an unmod. So that's what I would say. If your clash fills the category of hook, great. But hook versus clash, I say clash any day. All right, Mr. Miles, we need to wrap up.
We need to wrap up over here. Okay. Yeah. If we have any other last questions.
So basically, pledge for diplomacy. Human touch is important. Don't hide behind AI generated content. It's very helpful. It is not a replacement for if you're going to use it, review it. Make sure that you're like, oh, this makes sense. This would work with you. This would work with me. Don't think that your own sense. If you see an MUN opening statement, you're like, this sounds very vague. This doesn't actually give a solution. This doesn't give any factual data. Then go, oh, wait, there's a problem here. Don't say, oh, it came out of a generator and I put my entire study guide through it. Study guides, not all of them are amazing. We have a great article on what to do when your study guide is not good. So I would definitely say don't trust that. Trust your own intuition and your years of training. And you use
We
your
got an extra few minutes, Daniel, so if we don't want to push that, but
Yeah.
like I'd love to continue that discussion, even between us, about you talk about MUN guides that aren't any good, what you actually do. The human, you as a delegate, when you get that, you need to evaluate that, because also MUN is what does the M stand for? Model, right? Which means not necessarily a real model United Nations. We are not in the real United Nations. The topics that we have can be fictitious. They can be made up. Some of and that's okay. In those cases, you need to be able to guide and know what type of outcome you're asking for when you do use any external tool, because they may try to moderate where you're actually going and give you what we would call in reality truthful truthful answers, and not what's best for you as a delegate.
Yeah, if you read a study guide and you don't know what the chair wants, that's usually a problem with the study guide and not necessarily an issue with you. I would say very, very much, keep in mind that the study guide, and if anyone here has chaired before, then they'll know this, is you need to let the delegates know what you want them to discuss. And I've seen study guides that you leave that and you're like not sure what they want at all. Luckily, it wasn't a majority of study guides I've seen. And by the way, there are many chairs these days who will use, ChatGPT and other things to write study guides, lacking facts, which are up to date, lacking information in the best way. Like this is something which, like some level of standardization, just like was brought before the advent of AI, needs to remain. So first of all, to Winston's question, obviously you can definitely on our website, there's a contact section. Our resources and articles are freely available as far as the workshops go, like right in. So lots of good stuff.
Send us a message, contact us, and we'll reach out to you. We're here to not only give back but provide the best online resource, and when we do also offer digital workshops and training.
But by the way, I want to say to Eric who wrote here, so Eric, you've written a few study guides. You know how to get delegates to debate what you'd like them to, correct? Let's give like a yes in the chat. Yeah, great. So it's pretty clear. So when you see a guide which people have no idea what it is, these days, it's could also be generated, but that's a failing on the chair's part. And if you as a delegate read a guide, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. First of all, you have Eric right here in the chat, or Winston. Like when you've chaired like 10 conferences, and again, we don't always write all the guides for these things. Like a 2-page guide, and we have an article on study guides, some examples. I'm forgetting the name of the MUN, but one MUN in Canada, their study guides were always 2 pages, full of data, gold. Like David remembers when we talked about that. And I've seen study guides. I'll sum up with this example. There was an MUN conference talking about the Syrian civil war a number of years ago. The study guide was 70 pages. It started with the development of humanity in the cradle of civilization. It talked about Syrian civilization from the Roman era, and it ended in 2010 with the civil war starting in 2011. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. Like my students said, what is this? So it's like, and this was for for those who've been in giant GAs. This was in a giant GA, a 300-person room, like Specpol or something. So 300 people read a study guide of 70 pages on the history of Syria and nothing about the civil war, which is the thing we were supposed to discuss. It was crazy. So just because someone's a chair doesn't mean they're automatically able to do all these things. And I think for good chairs who have written guides and conferences, it's your job to research, bring the numbers, bring the useful information for your delegates so they know what to debate. Like for me, I'd say for many times I've chaired, the happiness was when the opening statements were all on point. I know. How long they spent on the study guide was, I don't even want to know. Just we sometimes come across these stories. Anyway, to wrap up from my end, I would say that like there's incredible potential with any kind of tool, and David brought many of the things that can be used to help. But I would say that just like a new delegate in your club who needs guidance, your chat, 100%. Some chairs are showing off their knowledge for identifying the problem. For getting a purpose study guide is the background needs to be there to prepare debate. Like that's something I also say sometimes. Like your study guide should not be something you're interested in reading about. It should be something that is setting up a good debate. If the study guide, reviews the knowledge topic but doesn't show the different blocks where they're interested, and you don't even need, by the way, you don't need a blocks like country blocks position. That, by the way, I'll also say is one of the big failings of many study guides, because they'll show the US and NATO countries, and then they're going to show like Russia, China. People forget Latin America completely. People forget Southeast Asian countries, Central Asia, like entire parts of the world are dropped because look, some sections are easier to research because they have English and more news is written about them. But if you're going to do block position, give something for everyone to do in a normative distribution. Okay.
Which
Anyway,
leads us into maybe a whole different topic for our next one about study guides and actually how to make them engaging, because the chair has so much power. The power of the pen, of diverting and knowing exactly where the debate might go before it even starts. And if they don't know how much power they truly hold in their hands before the conference even starts, then unfortunately that's where a lot of the unexperienced delegates get tripped. Is they keep on going down that lead, and that's why we wrote that guide on what to do when your study guide really sucks. I think that was the title of the guide.
Okay, so I'd say to answer the final question as far as like approach, not start with hook to grab attention. As I've said, clash, clearly saying what you want so others know what you want and can work with you. That is the best hook. And hook will usually cost you 20 seconds. And by that point, half the people aren't paying attention. So if we're saying make your clash your hook or start with a clash. This is my position on record. Hook, people think of some like cool creative intro, which then takes up 40 seconds. And there's no room to actually talk about the policies that people will be working with them on. And I've seen entire speeches lost to problem repetition and entire speeches lost to hook and problem repetition. And then they have to play catch up in a room of 7 people getting back on the GSL to actually say what they wanted to do. Start with what you want to do. If you finish your CIA in time, do a hook, do a quote, say God save the king, like whatever you want, get through that. And I've seen you can do it in 40 seconds. It's tight, but you can do it. Then finish with a soundbite, but start with what you want people to know. If you finish your speech and go, oh, I wish I would have said that, problem. Okay, David, final slide.
That's our hard stop now after our extra 10 minutes we got.
Yes, we super appreciate it. Thank you, organizers. So we want to say thank you, everyone, MUN Across Borders. We are very happy to support this incredible initiative. And if people have the chance, I'd say make a friend today, chat with somebody else. You have names. There's some really talented and competent MUNers here. And I think maybe we can make a new friend across the border that we haven't before.
You both, I don't know where to start thanking you from. These informations that you just blasted towards us are really hardcore information that every MUNer needs as a basis to start off their MUN career. I like to call it that way, right? I really hope that the other participants can really share this benefit that they just got. And even I, as someone who's been doing MUNs for a couple of years now, I found that this is a really beautiful refresher for me. And I would really encourage all the participants to just go on to wisemee.com. They have tons of other resources that really would help you at each and every stage during your MUN path. It's amazing, to put it into one word. You would really be mind blown with the resources that they have. So please do check that up. And once again, I would love to really, really thank you both for joining and for your continuous support year after year to our work here at MUNs Across Borders. And I'd really like to thank you both for lending us your time and your resources and your knowledge first and foremost. Thank you, David, and thank you, Daniel. And for